Hey guys, it's Godbars here, the self-proclaimed hip-hop historian, and this is the 162nd episode of my series where I grab a vinyl from my collection, talk about why I love it, what influence it has, and what its place is in the grand scheme of hip-hop. So in terms of crews or group acts that contributed heavily to West Coast hip-hop in the 90s and early 2000s, there's without a doubt still a good number I haven't had a chance to focus on yet. Just a few of the names on that list include MC8 and the rest of CMW or Compton's Most Wanted, Jurassic 5, Dilated Peoples, Anti-Pop Consortium, People Under the Stairs, and of course the various rappers and acts that were included in the Liquid Crew collective, like the Alcoholics, Loot Pack, or Exhibit, all of whom will have their time on the channel pretty soon. Today we're talking about one of the few big fish from the pond of 90s G-Funk that I've yet to cover. Of course, I'm talking about the Dogg Pound, which was a Death Row affiliated duo comprised of the legendary MC Corrupt and the top-tier rapper-producer Daz Dillinger. They were largely introduced to the world through their appearances on Snoop Dogg's 1993 debut, and their status was later further solidified through appearances on other game-changing LPs, like Tupac's All Eyes on Me in 1996. But in between those Death Row essentials, Corrupt and Daz dropped their debut album in 1995, right at this movement's height in popularity. However, like many of their label mates, DPG were involved in more than their fair share of rap beefs. And practically all of the artists that they had some type of feud with are ones I already covered in this set, or that I have planned coming up. I know I delved into it a little bit on my recent video for CNN's The War Report, as the LA track that Capote and Noriega did on that album in collaboration with Mobb Deep was a response to Snoop and the Dogg Pound for the perceived disrespect that they showed the East Coast on their song New York, New York off this album. And the subsequent music video that followed didn't exactly help the situation as it showed Snoop Dogg kicking over prominent New York buildings. This wasn't anywhere near their only beef during the 90s, though, as the issues Snoop, Dr. Dre, and other close affiliates had with Ruthless Records put DPG right smack in the middle of that Eazy-E situation. This led them to beef with not just him, but other pretty notable groups that were affiliated, like Above the Law or Bone Thugs and Harmony, who actually dissed the Dogg Pound on East 1999 Eternal, who then wasted no time responding to that on Dogg Food, sending shots right from the first track after the intro, which is titled Dogg Pound Gangstas. But you could remove the East Coast versus West Coast aspect from their debut LP here, and it would still without a shadow of a doubt be a classic and an absolute essential for any G-Funk fanatic. I also thought it was a fitting time to discuss these guys, given the recent Fire single and video that Snoop Dazz and Corrupt put out like a week ago. Both of these dudes are insanely talented rappers, and along with Snoop, have stayed pretty active in the game even to this day. Snoop actually executive produced and played a major role in a number of their more recent releases, which just goes to show you how tight the larger Dogg Pound crew was and still is behind the scenes. One thing everyone involved succeeded with immensely, especially in the mid-90s, is taking that groovy, funky West Coast flair that guys like DJ Quick pioneered and putting it through Death Row's classic, darker, and more grimy filter. I think that ability to be able to capitalize on the best of both worlds is a big part of why the Dogg Pound and their many affiliates were able to stay popular and well respected within these gang-banging communities, yet simultaneously still became massive acts that sold millions of records. There's a number of classic verses on here. One of my favorite comes pretty much right after the Bone Thugs diss, when Corrupt spits a series of dope lines beginning with, "It's easy to find MCs to execute, chances of survival too small to compute." Recognized like this was Samuel Sneed. I grip the microphone, continue with my devilish deeds. 'Cause all I see in my MIND is DPG for LIFE. And all I see on the MIC is another mangled MC opposing me. Supposed to be regulating in this rap era, made one error, up against the microphone terror. It takes two to tangle, I told Daz. Don't worry like Keith Murray, I'm a strangle. MCs with the microphone cord. You don't phase your thoughts being invaded and explored. Speaking of Daz, I really can't discuss this album and not give one of his top verses as well. And I decided to go with the one where he says, "Anybody killa, do or die if I have to, on deck 24/7 and blastin' if I have to. I live my life by the sword according to the law before I stop to wonder why the journey's so far. From the danger that lurks, from the one that's out doing dirt, step to mine and find yourself vanish away from this earth. Beyond the heartbreaks and heartaches, rest in peace. Ride or die, death is unexplainable when you die." Another killer set of Daz Dillinger lines come on the classic track Ridin', Slippin' and Slidin', where he raps, "It's a brand new day in the hood. It's money to make, and I'm doing bad, and it ain't looking good. It's all about the you-know-what everywhere that I roll, and never leave empty-handed without packing my chrome. If it's on, it's on. I put down my gangsta hand, show and prove and began, put the jack down to chance." I actually want to share one more verse that comes from Corrupt on Dogg Food, as in terms of actual all-time best rapper lists, I feel like Corrupt often gets kind of unfairly snubbed and ignored, when in reality he's pretty much as consistent of an MC as they come. He absolutely slaughters the track that includes both Snoop and Nate Dogg, giving us a number of gems starting with, "In the dead of winter is when I kick my coldest phrases. Mental is telepathy, lyrically it amazes. Construction of thoughts that's lethal as turpentine. An expert when I flex rhymes, feared like an ex-con. In my zone you can't even find like Atlantis. Stalk like a praying mantis, leaving battered bodies on the canvas. The burial ground for clowns. Open casket, tracking rappers down like fucking basset hounds." Daz and Corrupt had certain issues over the years, which definitely wasn't uncommon for signees of Death Row Records, especially post-Tupac's murder. I believe it was actually the personal relationship the two had with the label that ultimately drove a wedge between them for a period. Though with a duo like this, it's pretty much inevitable that they'll always find their way back to each other to make great music. While Daz Dillinger produced pretty much every single track here, the final instrumental is handled by Corrupt, and certain beats include assistance from legends like Dr. Dre, DJ Pooh, and Dave Swing Knight. As for featured artists, there's a much bigger pool of names, including Snoop Doggy Dogg, Big Trade E, Nancy Fletcher, Big Pimpin', Prince Atal Joe, Nate Dogg, Mr. Malik, Michelet, and the Lady of Rage. When it comes to my three favorite tracks overall on this absolute game changer of G-Funk, I would definitely have to pick Respect, New York, New York, and Dog's Day Afternoon. For honorable mentions that didn't quite crack the top three, I'd probably go with Dog Pound Gangstas, Psycho Lick No, Smooth, Let's Play House, I Don't Like to Dream About Getting Paid, Do What I Feel, Some Bomb-Ass Pussy, If We All Fuck, Reality, One by One, and So Much Style. Thank you for watching my 160-second video. Next time we have another iconic duo from the 90s that hasn't been featured on the page yet, so tune in for that one, and if you enjoyed, be sure to like, subscribe, and let me know what songs you enjoy the most off this contender for the Mount Rushmore of G-Funk LPs. Don't forget to have a great day, and I'll see you next time, okay? Alright.
Such a thing. Look, I stand in the flame of a feeling we call pain. Father's Day mug, little hand shaped in clay. Carrier planes flew overhead in pockets.